CABG or PCI is reasonable. But in this patient, PCI should be done. And disturbed abdominal and single stent is adequate, then PCI or CABG is reasonable. If two stent stent is required, then CABG is preferred, but CABG, PCI would be preferred. If you want to put up double stent stent, it is enough to consider the patient, discuss with the patient, and we have to think about the outcome of the patient. So let's have a conclusion. Stenting of the abdominal system is performed. Result, patient selection is considered must be based on the medical surgical conservation act and ethics of stenting of the non-distal equipment can be assessed with a major technical difficulties with a good immediate and long-term result. Stenting of the distal equipment is too challenging for unprotected equipment bifurcation. Single stage is still preferred and should be able to accept a result of more than 80%. Majority can deal with the single stage. IVAS guidance should be considered and may include the clinical outcome. The determination of definition of the primary composite endpoint and other compounding makes it impossible to draw a definite conclusion for the optimal therapy of a CABG and PCI for the rectal disease should not be considered completely. You will do the PCI to the CABG, but rather should be evaluated as an alternate strategy chosen on the basis of the patient and characteristics, animal consideration, and clinical presentation, and the patient preference. Decision sharing with the patient should include a discussion of trade-off of immediate better quality of life versus high rate of repeat restoration to the patient. So we have to discuss everything with the patient and the party and the attendant. And also the data we have in our hand, the model we have in the bonus data. Thank you for persevering.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Abdul Rahman, for nice deliberation. I would like to request a question from the audience, and at this time I would like to request the panelists. Yes.
Very nicely that still the data you have shown, leg pain disease, CABG, PCI, still inconclusive. So the result of Nobel Excel trial, long-term benefit in favor of CABG. So give a message, sometimes you become confused. In leg pain disease, how will you proceed? Will you go for CABG or PCI? So give us some message. Which lesion will go for PCI? Which leg pain lesion will go for CABG?
Okay, I think so. That is a very good question, and thank you for asking. Number one is that whether the patient is diabetic or non-diabetic, that has to be done. Number two is whether the lesion is what is the lesion. If the lesion is ostium or mid-shape, if the lesion is the ostium or mid-shape, we can go for PCI. Actually, the lesion in the distal bifurcation and distal and the lesion in the other corners like LAD, like LCH, like RCA. And these are dictated that this patient will see the if it is mid-shape or ostium, we will set up PCI. If it is bifurcation lesion only, there is no distal disease, then we can go to the PCI or the CABG, depending on the discussion, considering the discussion of the patient. And if the syntax is good, like LAD is also disease, LCH of disease, RCA also disease, and CTO, these patients should send for surgery. We should not. And we should maintain the ethics. Sometimes we push the patient that we can go for either of the procedure, but say there is no. The recommendation says that if the syntax is less than 33, it's class 3 indication. If the syntax is below less than syntax is 33, which is class 3 indication. That indicator we should not do it. But you can say the patient that considering your risk or considering comorbidity, like that I shown you that let's say metastasis, like malignancy, renal failure, some kind of that. This patient we cannot send for surgery. We should not say whatever the analysis is. So it is depends upon the patient compliance and the anatomical consideration.
Yes, thank you, sir. Any question from audience?
I have a question regarding sort of philosophical, and this is for the chairpersons and panels as well. This is sort of a philosophical question, which is, we keep comparing the left knee PCI to CABG. CABG involves a surgeon looking at an artery, grafting an artery, perfecting that graft. So flow meter pre, flow meter post, making sure every stitch is in place, ensuring there's no bleeding, reversing the protamine, blah, blah, blah. Versus every single left main PCI trial done to date that has been angiography only with intravascular imaging as if the operator chooses. Are we comparing apples to oranges? Are we comparing data from a suboptimal procedure to a, by definition, perfect procedure? And is it time for all of us to commit to actually doing this in the way we know the evidence supports, which is 100% intravascular imaging, maximizing your little stent area, and then comparing it to whether or not CABG makes a difference? Because at this point, based on the controversy between Excel and Noble, the difference in stent type, the lack of intravascular imaging, the difficulties with endpoints and endpoint changes, I don't know what to think. I don't think there's any real conclusions that we can make, knowing what we know about the procedure today. Philosophical thoughts. I don't know what you think my friend or the panel has.
Chaudhry Hassan, half step, the comment regarding the exit, not about the Sanjay was.
Sanjay, your historical comments have also added to the issue that whether the clinical foundation is current syndrome or stable C, that will also be addressed. But let me tell you something, that surgeons and interventionists, we often don't talk to each other in the conference. Like I don't see any surgeon in this conference. But when we were in a Zoom meeting, Professor Taggart actually mentioned that if you want to do ostial or shaft, be my guest. But please don't go for interpretation. And there is some warning there. But I would say that this is definitely not an apple-to-apple comparison. And I think we often don't give a choice to the patients. Sometimes we really tell the patients that this is the best. But I think it's time maybe to discuss this with the patient and family and give all the things. But if we want to go, then go like full-hearted. Not like, I'm not going to do the imaging, I'm not going to do that. If you go, so I tell the fellows, like, if you're going to Afghanistan, let's get the job done well. Don't leave this anything behind. This is just going to come back and haunt you.
So I'd like to request Dr. Amma, he is an internationally very famous interventional cardiologist, regarding PCI versus CABG in bifurcation lesion, left main bifurcation. Selection of the patient who is on it waiting for CI, who is on will get benefit from CABG. Distal bifurcation.
In the letter, I really agree that we have to do, if we do this bifurcation, we have to do perfect work in terms of post-adaptation, preparation of the lesion. If we do in proper way, and if we use most of the time IOS, for example, for those patients, I still would like to go with the PCI. So it's totally up to who will do the left main procedure. Because remember that we use big stents for left main, and restenosis rate is very low if we do a good job, perfect job. I believe that. But I'm very happy to do this bifurcation, identification in my practice.
Yeah, moderator, I want to
I like
ask the question.
I like to add something with this way. Ashok. This going half-heartedly should not be done. I do agree, but in many centers we don't have imaging. But we'll do that. And whether should we refer the patient to other center or I can perform without imaging with a good
That's very important, whether you can do the left main PCI without imaging. So there is one session, I think there is one session just on imaging on left main. But now your question, please.
Thank you, Abdurrahman sir. I have a question regarding most of the private centers in our country do not have the IOS. Sometimes when we do PCI, we do combined angiography in the private centers. Sometimes we get angiographic reports like that distal left main with unprotected left main disease. And what should we do? Should we do elective
without
which is
imaging, you will do left main or not?
That important question of the election. And thank you very much. So if the left main is an ostial or mid shaft, you can go ahead. Okay? If it is bifurcation and single stent professional stent strategy, you can also do that. But I would not say that it is superior to imaging. Imaging is also better. But if you need a two-stent strategy, it is better to send the patient or center. But the bypass imaging has to be available. Single crossover, you can do that. But double-stent strategy, big class or mini class or two-road, please send the patient for.
So should we do it elective basis or ad-hoc basis?
This I'm telling you on the elective. But if it is an acute cardiac syndrome, then you have to go for stent.
Yes, thank you, sir. Any opinion from the
Especially just keep in mind.
I wanted to say something.
Mike, please.
So, if you're doing left main, I'd rather have my left main done by some experienced operator. And all the facilities available. I totally agree with Chandra that there should be a streamlined process that who is doing what. We cannot just go in and just be a casual operator in a very complex situation. I think that we all are like leaders in interventional cardiology here. Governor Jolbai, you are here, Mr. Malik. I think we need to come up with a sort of consensus that we can't just do random, casual, PCI, we can train fellows and we do train fellows, but for complex PCI, there should be some more streamlined process. Sanjay, you have any comment?
Yeah,
And the facilities of imaging and every tools,
yeah. So
as much as possible.
But I think so then you have to send all the patients to the advanced hospital. But if the operator is excellent, if the operator is good and he has so many experience with the left main, with the imaging, and then he can do it in the center, but there is no IVS facility available. Because, especially, one stent strategy, but definitely because he knows angiographically what is the diameter of the left main. What should be that? It should be more than 5, but randomly you cannot say that you can do it. Otherwise, all the center in the Bangladesh will stop doing the procedure. But definitely, we have to send the patient to the procedure. Definitely, I agree with with Hafiz that it should be done with an imaging vaccine. That is an idea. But how many centers world is idea? That I don't think about this. In Bangladesh, maybe 1 or 3 centers, only the IVS imaging. But in that center, believe me that most of the cases doing without imaging electric cases. Especially the
Thank you.
that's right. That's right. Like National Foundation, like United Hospital, like NICUD. So everybody is doing that's the theory.
Thank you very much. Now, Dr. Sanjay, your comment, please.
আমি ধরুন কি আমি এই লাইটে আমি ধরুন একজনও ধরছি না তো আরেকজন কথা বললে আমি ওই লোকটারে
the
ধরবো
point that's made, which is we have to be there for our patients is an important point, right? Somebody comes in with an acute coronary syndrome or a hot left main that needs to be revascularized, do what you have to do, right? But recognize that you're committed, this was the talk at the beginning, right? We're committed to what our patients need, not what we as individuals can provide. So if you've got your patient out of trouble, great. That doesn't mean you're done. Maybe you're done for today, right? But that's the patient that then you refer on to a higher volume site or a site with intravascular imaging or whatever to ensure that your result is optimal, right? When we look at what surgeons do, right? When we look at what bypass is about, it's about plumbing a vessel into a vessel. It's the same sutures, the same arteriotomy, the same shunt, the same pump, the same way every time. So if it's the same way every time, they perfect that by the volume that they do. Whereas with us, anatomy is different, bifurcations are different. Sometimes you're using imaging, sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're doing 5 left mains a year. Others are doing 5,000 left mains a year if you go to full wide, right? The volume piece is really critical for us because we actually measure these in terms of numbers of procedures as opposed to numbers of grafts. Whereas your surgeon, every time they do a graft, is practicing the same thing that we have to practice procedure by procedure, right? So I think it's worthwhile recognizing that even though we can't get an optimal result today, we have to commit to getting an optimal result, whether that's today, tomorrow, the next day, or on follow-up angiography. Just don't let these types of procedures walk out of your doors or walk out of the hospital system without a committed optimal result.
Yes. So we have a short time. Yes. Thank you, sir. So next floor. Yes, sir.
Just one point.
Yes, please answer. Yes.
I do actually when hypertension studying or left ventricular studying, I was in essential, but